Manchester United lack a midfield metronome, a player who can sit deep in the midfield and not just circulate the ball efficiently, but also provide progressive passing ability into players between the lines. But before I go any further, remember to subscribe to the channel and check out my Patreon podcast, which will be linked below. But also, if you want cheap, good quality football jerseys for the new season or retro jerseys from the past 40 years, then check out jerseyfever.com. A link will be in my Instagram bio, and if you use coupon code Atlantis, you should get a discount as well. I'll leave my Instagram at the top of the description and comment section, and a link will be in my Instagram bio. At the moment, Casemiro is looking lethargic both in and out of possession, not having the same athleticism or awareness that he did last season, which has seen him fail to pick up runners as they enter the United box, with Danny Welbeck's goal, which opened the scoring for Brighton at Old Trafford, being a perfect example of Casemiro failing to see Welbeck as a threat and not being able to stop him having a free run into the box. But in possession, I think Casemiro arguably has been even worse, having a very sloppy start to the season where he's giving away the ball far too often with lacklustre forward passes and just not having the same ability as we see from players like Rodri and Enzo Fernandez to circulate the ball quickly with a number of short passes before them being able to find a midfield splitting pass. Casemiro just lacks the same sort of vision and passing ability that I think Ten Hag ideally needs from his deep single pivot. Now, Eriksen certainly does have the ability to control the tempo of the game by slowing things down when needed, enabling United to gain control, whilst also having the incisive passing ability to find the likes of Bruno Fernandes between the lines. However, he is such a liability from a defensive point of view, there's just no way he can play in a midfield three, particularly in a midfield three alongside Fernandes and Casemiro, as that trio has a complete lack of defensive tenacity, athleticism and ball carrying ability, which is why United's play in the midfield seems so slow and indecisive compared to the likes of City, Arsenal and Tottenham. But does this mean that United are doomed until they are able to sign a replacement for Casemiro and Eriksen? Well, not necessarily, as I do think United have two players specifically who I think could solve a lot of Ten Hag's midfield issues. At the time of writing, academy graduate Utd Mainoo and new signing Sofyan Amrabat haven't even played a single minute of competitive football for United so far this season. But I am incredibly excited to see their impact on this United side. We'll start off with Amrabat, who I think will come into the midfield for Christian Eriksen, becoming the deep single pivot, which will then allow Casemiro to push forward to the right, enabling him to take up a slightly higher position. First things first, having Amrabat is going to massively improve United's build-up in the defensive third, but also maybe more importantly, their ability to progress the ball into the middle third. Currently, United struggle with breaking through compact defensive units who sit off in the middle third as Arsenal did, with Casemiro either not taking the opportunity to turn and play forward when he is found in behind the forward line by one of the centre-backs, and instead turning back to retain possession, or he tries to create something from deep, and he ends up trying an over-ambitious pass with very little conviction in its execution, simply handing possession back to the opposition. However, just by comparing Amrabat and Casemiro's FB ref report from the past 365 days, we can see that when it comes to their short, medium and long passes, as well as their overall ability to progress the ball up the pitch, Amrabat is clearly the better dictator of play, and this added reliability in possession is going to provide a lot of what Eriksen did in those deeper central midfield positions, and so you could describe Amrabat as the best qualities of Casemiro and Eriksen blended together. Playing Amrabat as a deep single pivot is going to give United someone who is composed when receiving the ball under pressure around his own box, but not just that. He's also someone that can find the best ball progression avenue and very rarely loses possession with long or forward passes, something that Casemiro needs to eradicate from his game. Now, I do think that Casemiro would improve almost immediately playing alongside Amrabat, as his deeper positioning and added defensive ability would take a lot of the responsibility off the Brazilian, but I do think there's a genuine case for Utd Midfield to take Casemiro's place, at least in the short term anyway, whilst Casemiro is struggling to find form. With Mainoo and Amrabat now integrated into the midfield, you now have much greater athleticism in defensive situations, but also two players who can not only play out under pressure, but have the ability to turn and drive out of pressure into space, something that is pretty much non-existent in a midfield of Casemiro, Eriksen and Fernandes. But just by putting Mainoo alongside Amrabat, it gives United the legs they need to block off spaces, and Brighton's second goal at Old Trafford was a perfect example of the lack of legs that United have when Eriksen starts centrally. So here we see United with a midfield three of McTominay and Eriksen, either side of Casemiro, as Fernandes sits in front, and initially when the play gets switched over to the left of Matoma, McTominay actually does well to move over to Brighton's left and track the run of Lamptey, supporting Dalot in that channel. However, in the centre, as Casemiro moves over to United's right, Eriksen takes far too long to get over and cover Casemiro, moving at a walking pace, and when Lamptey slides the ball between Casemiro and McTominay, not only is Eriksen not covering that space as he should, but he also shows practically zero intensity in at least moving over to apply pressure to Gross, enabling him to stride through, almost walk past Eriksen, and shift the ball away from Martinez before rifling the ball into the near post past Onana. Just from watching Kobbie Mainoo, you can already see that he's a midfielder who is far more than just a ball winner. Whilst Casemiro looks kind of clunky and inefficient, whenever he receives a ball in a deeper position close to the centre-backs, Mainoo instead is incredibly fluid, reminiscent of Paul Pogba in terms of a similarity of technique, and this aids him in evading pressure, but he's also astute at moving the ball on as efficiently as possible. And so with both Amrabat and Mainoo dropping into deep positions in behind the opposition's forward line in these central areas, aiding the centre-backs with ball progression, United now have two incredibly efficient circulators of the ball who are not just comfortable under pressure, but also they have the physicality and athleticism to match when United don't have possession either. I think if Ten Hag decided to go with a midfield diamond as he did against Brighton, then using Kobbie Mainoo in Eriksen's role and Amrabat in Casemiro's role, and then either Mount if he's fit or even Casemiro in that right-sided central midfield role that McTominay was used in, then immediately Ten Hag has a better balanced midfield three, providing the perfect blend of press resistance, ball progression, athleticism and defensive ability to then allow Bruno Fernandes to sit in front at the top of the diamond and retain a higher position out of possession, making him an outlet when United win the ball back. But also the reason I think a diamond with these players would work is because it enables so much positional versatility. Mount and Mainoo can hold wider and deeper positions if needed, allowing Amrabat to sit deep as a deep single pivot and potentially drop between the two centre-backs, which will allow the fullbacks Dalot and Reguilón to advance forward, or we could see Mainoo drop alongside Amrabat creating a double pivot, with Mount pushing up into the right-sided half space and Fernandes pulling over to the left, giving United a box in midfield instead of a diamond. But further up the pitch as well, with Mainoo and Mount either side of Amrabat, Ten Hag not only has one of the best deep-lying midfielders in Europe when it comes to ball circulation and switching of the play, but also two players in Mainoo and Mount who have the creative ability to push up between the lines and be threats in the final third, whilst also pulling out wide to link with the fullbacks and forwards in the channels as well. And we've seen how quickly young players can develop in the modern game when trusted in the right system, and to me this wide central midfield role is perfect for Kobbie Mainoo. Long term I would like to see him develop into a deep single pivot, becoming a dictator of play in that regista role. But at the moment I really like the setup of him to the left of Amrabat, taking some of the ball progression burden off of the youngster, as well as giving him the freedom to shuttle out wide and push higher up the pitch in attempts to win possession back, whilst Amrabat can sit behind, reading the game and sweeping up positionally. So let me know what you think of a midfield diamond of Amrabat, Mount and Kobbie Mainoo either side with Bruno Fernandes at the point of the diamond. Check out some of my other videos which will be linked in the description below. Sign up to my Patreon for long form and non-Manchester United content as well. And make sure you click the bell when you subscribe so you do get notified when my videos come out.